Okay, I've been waiting nearly 3 months for this, as the backorder in late September was pushed out by a month. This is somewhat of a passion project as I missed gaming and I wanted to get back to playing and reviewing more games. Also, I love pixel art and the retro-style platformers seem like a great alternative for overly complicated modern games that require a few hundred hours of playing to get into. And the tie-in for one of the most iconic sci-fi movie sequels of all time is too good to pass up. Terminator 2D No Fate is an homage to an era that ushered in mind-bending CGI while paying tribute to the pixel art platformers of the day. I've not had a chance to go through the full game and wanted to share my initial impressions. You can check the description for other videos when they're available.
Terminator 2D No Fate.
Right off the bat, we have the classic intro screen with start, options, and high scores. True to old school fashion, after a short while on the screen, the game launches into a demo mode. Each demo starts off with the name, age, and description for the main characters, Sarah, T800, T1000, and John. After a bit of gameplay, it cycles through the intro screen and loops through the character list.
Resistance faction displays home.
On starting the game proper, you are greeted with the featurette, which includes a variety of cutscenes ranging from looped animations, slow pans, and a still shot. The opening video is gritty with an interlaced style, with no voiceover to keep with the retro aesthetic. The storyline is set up with the highway scene reminiscent of the ending of the Terminator 2 movie. However, here it's Sarah's perspective after the events of the first movie, where she's the only one who knows of the impending attack by Skynet to eliminate humanity. Although the theme is based on a sci-fi movie from 34 years ago, the message is quite relevant to today's narrative on what's happening with AI. Maybe my next topic to focus on? After the initial retaliatory attack by Skynet, the remaining survivors mount a resistance, which is led by her son John, humanity's last hope. However, John's not quite ready yet. In the starting level, the game starts with Sarah trading John for his pivotal role, which isn't shown nor mentioned in the movie. The gameplay feels only slightly more intense than the training, and feels more like a simple level to ease players in. Considering that most people wouldn't even look at training options, this is a great design feature. This is further made clear as tooltips for the controls are still shown throughout the game. There wasn't any settings I'd noticed which could turn them off, possibly something that appears based on the hardness levels chosen. After the cursory first boss battle, there's a small bit of overflow minions, which is dispatched quickly, then followed up by the level stats rundown. The next level is Sarah trying to break into Cyberdyne. The backdrop is a construction site and features multi-level sections. Here you'll encounter attack dogs and security guards. This leads into a corporate/tech lab where you'll have to overcome attack Roombas and semi-automatic rifle-wielding henchmen, which reminds me of the 90s Intel ad dancers, as well as some kind of coiling plasma rays. It's almost like some of the people were in cahoot with Skynet even before it was created. To say the level design team took artistic license isn't too far of a stretch. After a fairly easy lab sentry wave rush, which only requires a bit of timing and aiming, you'll walk into a factory setting, where some poor fella just wants to finish up his report at the end of the day to go home to play with his new puppy. But what happens instead is you hear a warning shot and get a very powerful suggestion to take a nap. Cold. Here you get ceiling-mounted laser beams, along with the previously seen roof cannons, and pneumatic presses, which may or may not happen atop of conveyor belts. The end-level boss is a HAL-looking centerpiece which hurls detonating orbs which you'll need to dodge while also avoiding a top-mounted strafing laser. Damage can be dealt by targeting either the candy-coated center and/or laser mount. The centerpiece does change state but doesn't affect the damage it takes. Probably something that's there for the harder levels. Defeating this baddie reveals that they'd already started on the Terminator prototype, and Sarah is whisked away to Pescadero State Hospital for the criminally insane for trying to blow up a computer factory. Maybe that makes sense for the Intel dance entourage. The next few levels highlight the future events of the Resistance, led by John as intel of Skynet's plan to send Terminators back in time is uncovered. During the skirmish at Skynet's base, it is learned that the time displacement equipment is real and that they're planning on sending Terminators back to the past. At which point Skynet's infiltration attempt of the Resistance HQ draws John back to help out. Here you run a gauntlet of humanoid Terminators, including the flesh-covered ones, large feline types, and the others from the previous level. Partway through, there's a mini-boss, which is reminiscent of the protagonist in Iron Man 2. This is relatively easy to get through if you aren't sloppy with your moves. The end-level boss seemed the hardest to get through so far, but you do get a power-up right before the encounter. There is an incendiary attack, which at first seems to be something to be avoided, but actually does no damage. A few well-timed dodging of the side swipes, which is telegraphed, and the silvers like Terminators, and you can finally break through. This is where you find out that you were too late and that Terminators were sent back in time. One to 1984 and the other to 1994. Which leads to the very first time in this game where you get to jump into one of the scenes from the movie. The time warp sequence of the Terminator reaching 1995 is just a stellar visual showpiece that I'm sure fans of the movie will fully appreciate. I sure do. Bitmap Bureau have managed to capture the essence of the famous bar fight, with the opening lines to the waitress's shock at, well, the cleverly pixelated nudity? The game is rated PEGI 16 after all, and doubt just one portion of the game is worth risking a much higher rating and losing a huge chunk of the market. Another feature that fans will surely love is the songs in the scene. The song played in the bar when the Terminator enters is Dwight Yoakam's guitar's Cadillacs. But you can switch it up to the iconic Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood and the Destroyers. Tossing the guy onto the grill is also worked in as a quick in-game scripted event. I'm not too knowledgeable about platformers back in the day, but there must have been similar in-game events, and seeing these types of features directly in the game as opposed to completely removed cutscenes helps to not break immersion. There is of course a divergence from the flow of events in the movie, but given that games require a certain level of interactivity, this is understandable. Here you can get a feel for the variety of gameplay modes, which switches from a run and gun to a Double Dragon style beat 'em up. Following this leads off to the entrance of the T-1000, which is given a very sparse cutscene treatment. Quickly pivoting to the arcade scene where John, trying to evade the officer looking for him, sets up the scene for the first encounter between the T-800 and the T-1000. Again, this is done through sporadic cutscenes, where the T-1000 taking shotgun blasts is just simply a quick succession of screen flashes, a la reuse Infamous Fireball effect in the 1994 Street Fighter movie. This seems to be a rushed job, and given there isn't a playable element, a bit more padding or light animation would have slightly elevated this section. After the cutscenes, you can play as John taking off on his dirt bike with the T-1000 in hot pursuit. If you successfully dodge and evade the truck, this leads on to another classic scene where John heads off into the flood channels and the T-1000 majestically jumping the overpass to continue the chase. Well, as best possible from a side-scrolling perspective as you can. If you fail here, you get shish kebab by the T-1000. If you manage to last a while, then the Terminator comes to the rescue and you get to take shots at the truck. This is as far as I've gotten. I'd originally wanted to go through the unboxing of the packaging and Day 1 edition extras, the game menu, gameplay quirks, but even with just a brief overview of the levels, the video has gotten quite long. I'll be focusing on those and items of note in a separate video and link it in the description when it's available. If you made it this far, give a like and subscribe to stick with me as I navigate this quirky world of videos and infotainment. Take care and goodbye for now.